A mixed forecast for home sales in Indiana as we head into the new year. How interest rates, affordability, and location are all factoring into the equation. Plus,
thousands of these glass syringes are churning off the production line here daily, and Stevanato is just getting started. We'll have that story coming up in the Business of Health.
And Indianapolis preparing for a rumble. How the city landed in the middle of World Wrestling Entertainment's biggest stage. Inside Indiana Business is next.
From Indiana's business news leader, this is IBJ Media's Inside Indiana Business with Gerry Dick. Presented by Elevate Ventures and Indiana University.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick, coming to you this week from one of some 13,000 homes now on the market in Indiana. This home happens to be in the Lockerbie neighborhood in downtown Indianapolis, indicative really of the housing stock that's now available downtown. This home, 4 levels, 5,600 square feet. Estimated price tag right now about $1.6 million. There's an elevator here as well. You know, the last few years have been challenging for the housing market here in central Indiana and statewide. Rising mortgage rates, skyrocketing prices, all contributing to a rather challenging housing market. But in the midst of the midwinter freeze, there are signs of a thawing market. Statewide sales were up 8% in December. In central Indiana, inventory increased 16%. And with mortgage rates moderating, some suggest things are looking up for 2025. From the pandemic's disruptive effects to rising mortgage rates and a tight housing market, the past few years have been a roller coaster for home buyers and sellers alike. But as 2024 drew to a close, signs of moderation began to emerge. Statewide home sales increased 8% in December, that according to numbers from the Indiana Association of Realtors. And in central Indiana, inventories remained tight, but showed signs of easing, increasing by 16%, providing a bit of optimism for 2025.
Generally speaking, I think we certainly in Indiana expect a very strong year. We've got a very stable, solid real estate market. That's a big advantage for being a Hoosier, is that we don't ride the cycles that a lot of places do. So we expect, if not a robust year, certainly a very strong one.
Brown says affordability will be king in 2025 in a housing market that has seen average monthly house payments double in 5 years.
However, Indianapolis and Indiana specifically, we tend to be very favorable on the cost of insurance, on property taxes, and our prices relative to other places in the country are extraordinarily affordable.
And the Indiana housing market is getting noticed. Zillow ranks Indianapolis as the nation's second hottest housing market for 2025. Noting affordability, strong job market, and high quality of life. And joining me now with some perspective on the statewide housing market, pleased to be joined by Mark Fisher. Mark is the CEO of the Indiana Association of Realtors. And Mark, some challenging years, the last few years, a combination of COVID, mortgage rates, certainly a lack of inventory. It's been a challenging few years.
Yeah. We've seen gone from very low interest rates to very high interest rates. We've seen a lot of movement of people across the country with the pandemic, but we seem to be entering into a more balanced market as we head into 2025.
As you look at numbers from last year, from 2024, certainly the tail end of 24, heading into 25, it appears as though things are lining up for a much improved 25.
Yeah, we ended on a really strong note, especially here in central Indiana, but statewide, we ended up just above where we were in 2023. We've got some good news for sellers and buyers as we head into 25.
As you look at that good news on the horizon for sellers and buyers, what are some of those?
For sellers, we ended on a strong note. So we know that the demand is there. We also know that houses are moving fairly quickly, just over 2 weeks from list to pend. And sellers are getting about 96% on average from their original asking price. So we know that there's strong demand. If you price it right, the house should move quickly.
And obviously, employment, jobs are a big factor in this. The economy in Indiana, as you look around the state, is certainly in several pockets around the state, jobs being created, jobs jobs of people moving into certain areas. Has that had an impact?
Yeah, Indiana still has relative affordability compared to our national peers and our Midwestern peers. So relative to our wage growth, we've seen strong wage growth, we've seen strong economic growth and positive net migration. So we should see a strong market for sellers. We see builders that are adding more inventory. So buyers should have more options as well. And we've seen that price appreciation really steady. So we're seeing more of around 4 or 5% as opposed to 12, 14, 15% increases in price.
How important is the psychology when people see that perhaps interest rates are moderating, see that things are better? Does that help? Is there an impact on the market?
Well, it certainly can drive more demand. As home buyers are sitting on low interest rates, as they get more comfortable, they can maybe put their house on the market. But as those rates come down, we actually may see more demand as buyers come off the sidelines as well. So we could see more inventory, but more customers and clients coming into the market.
In Indiana, Indianapolis in particular, getting some national attention. Zillow out with a report pegging Indianapolis as the second hottest real estate market in 2025.
That's right. That goes along with that economic growth, that population growth, especially in central Indiana. You have builders that can build at scale, so they're building the new types of housing. But we're also seeing the quality of life and the difference of quality of life and the options you have that in central Indiana has to offer.
Well, even mid-sized Indiana cities like Marion and Grant County are experiencing a housing resurgence of sorts. Officials there breaking ground on a nearly $11 million mixed-use development in the city's downtown riverfront district. River Rock Lofts will feature 44 apartments, commercial space, and a public plaza. Marion Mayor Ronald Morrell says the project is a major step towards his vision of creating a walkable, dense downtown. Construction expected to be complete by the spring of next year. Well, still ahead, the biggest overall concern facing the Indiana economy, especially when it comes to the state's bread and butter, the manufacturing sector. A top Indiana economist weighs in. Welcome back to Inside Indiana Business. We are staying warm inside one of some 13,000 homes for sale in the state of Indiana. We're in downtown Indianapolis this week. You know, the last segment we focused on the housing industry. Now we take a look at the overall Indiana economy. Ball State economist Mike Hicks recently released some predictions on the year ahead. If Indiana's economic outlook for the year were a weather forecast, you might describe it as partly sunny. Ball State economist Mike Hicks says we're in the final stages of what he calls a soft landing as the post-COVID rebound continues.
An Indiana economy growing about 2.4% this year with about 37,000 new jobs, which is a pretty good place to be at the end of the tightening cycle by the Federal Reserve.
Indiana has landed billions of dollars in high-tech investment deals over the past 5 years. New EV projects, semiconductor plants, and data centers in the works across the state. But Hicks says there are challenges.
And those are great jobs. They're great products. They're going to be really well suited to parts of Indiana, but they're not a lot of jobs. So I don't, and part of this is because they're a very rarefied air to be. You know, we have maybe 50,000 people making fab, chips around the country. If the CHIPS Act is really successful, I think a lot of people think we might get another 50,000 as the top end, probably more than tripling our total semiconductor production because its new plants are so productive and so efficient. And so we're getting some of those in the geographies that have the right people. We're seeing, really good plant announcements around Tippecanoe County, around Indianapolis, increasingly the Chicagoland area, Fort Wayne, and I think in the next big growth area is going to be north of Louisville. We're seeing a lot of those plants. We're not seeing them so much in the places that have been really starved of manufacturing jobs or are shrinking population simply because those places don't have the population to match those really high-end jobs.
And it's time to get caught up now on what's making business headlines around Indiana. And for that, we send it to Mary Rachel Redmond, who's in our studio at Fox 59 here in Indianapolis. Mary Rachel.
Here's what's making news around Indiana, brought to you by the Indiana Association of Realtors. Indiana's 21,000 realtors, the neighbors you know, the experts you can count on.
We begin this week in the Wabash Valley, where a Terre Haute company is helping military veterans looking for work after their service. TransCare Ambulance Services launching its Operation EMS initiative, which gives veterans transitioning back to civilian life a chance to earn a job as an emergency medical technician.
People go into the military and they don't necessarily focus on what they're going to do post-military. And so a lot of times veterans, they have trouble finding what they're going to do next. But with the high demand of personnel for EMT and paramedics, and obviously a massive pool of veterans out there post-military career, it just kind of makes sense to target that market.
There's new investment in the state's agriculture sector. Huntington-based Superior Ag buying the Summit River Terminal in Rockport with plans to spend $20 million on a massive dry fertilization facility on the site. It's expected to add 20 new jobs. In South Bend, work continues on increasing housing availability. They just cut the ribbon on a duplex in a former industrial area of the city. Mayor James Mueller says equitable, attainable housing is a pressing need for the region. Other homes in the neighborhood are currently under construction. A Fishers-based company has landed a $10 million federal contract. Pierce Aerospace's technology allows government and commercial users to detect, track, and identify drones. The contract will bring the drone technology to a variety of departments and agencies that fall under the Department of Homeland Security. Pierce Aerospace has 15 employees and won Tech Innovation Team of the Year at the 2024 Mira Awards. Growth for a company doing business in southern Indiana. Food service packaging manufacturer Genpack is investing nearly $7 million into its new polystyrene operation in Scottsburg. Using a cliche from the professional wrestling world, it's almost time to get ready to rumble in Indianapolis. The first of 3 World Wrestling Entertainment's main events, the wildly popular Royal Rumble, getting ready to go down at Lucas Oil Stadium next weekend. A deal solidified after WWE President Nick Khan experienced firsthand Indy's mastery at hosting big events like hosting March Madness.
Have you ever been to a sporting event in Indianapolis? Because they do it so well. Everything was so well appointed, convenient, the bells and whistles were all there. He said it felt like there was a big event happening. It was obvious anywhere you walked in the city.
Royal Rumble expected to generate $350 million to the central Indiana economy. Still ahead for you, how a small piece of glass is playing a big part in biotech. More on why business is booming at a global company with deep central Indiana ties in this week's Business of Health.
Modern challenges need innovative solutions. We can't predict what's next, but our experience as a science and data-driven company means we can make sure you're ready for it.
Stevanato, a pharma company based in Italy with deep roots in central Indiana. Commercial production is now underway at a new $500 million plant in Fishers. Italy-based Stevanato makes glass containers for pharmaceuticals. Business of Health reporter Kylie Veleta has more.
The main product churning off the production line at Stevanato right now are these glass syringes. And while a piece of glass may not seem that high tech, think again.
Business is booming at the Stevanato Group in Fishers. What was originally a $150 million project grew to $500 million based on exploding demand. And project leaders stepped on the gas to fire up production lines even sooner than planned.
We are very excited about that. Since the last quarter of last year, we have been able to deliver products to our customers, and that was a major milestone that we are very proud to have reached.
Sales director of the engineering division, Alessandro Zannini, says a handful of production lines are up and running, making glass syringes that are experiencing fire-hot demand. The wildly popular GLP-1 drugs are self-injected, as well as insulin products, meaning a massive demand for the company's glass syringes.
It is good news for Stevanato, but we are happy to think that it's good news for the end users, that they have a new partner in town that is able to sustain and to deliver the products when they need it, where they need it, in the quality that they desire.
And while glass syringes may not seem high-tech, Stevanato shatters that perception. The drugs that will go inside are like liquid gold, so the tiny containers must be sterile and sized to the most exact standards.
There is a lot of technology that is included with that. Quality meaning strict dimensional controls, but also quality means in terms of impurity in the syringe itself. The process of inserting the needle and making sure that the needle is not damaged and it is placed correctly, it is another key important factor.
While Stevanato can't share the names of its clients, the company's largest U.S. operation is helping drug makers keep pace with surging demand for syringes.
Being able to manufacture them locally also helps the customer having a very close proximity with the manufacturing, and so we reduce the time to market drastically.
In the coming weeks, Stevanato will begin adding glass vials to its operation, which can hold a wide variety of drugs and vaccines.
But we already have an eye on the future with the possibility of further expansion of this facility, this site, and not only that, but also expanding to different products that we might offer that still will come out of this facility. So the plan for the growth is here, and we are just touching the beginning of our experience here.
Expected to reach full production in about 2 years, syringes are just the start.
It is just the beginning.
And there's still plenty of space to fill here at Stevanato. About 100 employees work here now. That's expected to grow to about 500 when the plant is at full production.
Thanks, Kylie. Well, here's a way to increase your flexibility and strengthen your cardio. Indoor climbing. And in Fort Wayne, this new fitness trend is pointing in one direction, upward. Summit City Climbing Company offers 7 routes with new ones added every other week. The downtown Fort Wayne bouldering gym opened in November after owner Edwin Chow noticed his friends would frequently drive 2 hours to visit other gyms. After a huge response, they're already searching for a second, bigger space.
We need more space. We want to run programs and we want to run clubs and clinics and just teen competitions, right? But we're not able to because we're only 4,000 square feet.
Chow says there are routes available for those who are new to the sport. They're targeting the north side of Fort Wayne for the second gym. Now let's send it back out to Gerry for more on Indiana's sizzling hot housing market.
All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. Well, coming up, we catch up with Indiana State University's new president, Mike Goddard. He reflects on his first 6 months on the job. Plus, we check out Indiana's hottest real estate markets, from the region to Bloomington. What's driving home sales across Indiana?
Time now for our Eye on Education, brought to you by PNC
Indiana
Bank.
State University President Mike Goddard is celebrating 6 months leading the Sycamores. During his first semester on campus, ISU broke ground on its largest capital project in school history and opened 2 new labs focused on cybercrime and esports.
I'm always thinking about kind of like what's next and how do we continue to build upon this positive momentum that we're fortunate to have right now. You know, I think a lot of it is kind of centers back to what I originally said in terms of providing more opportunities for students to earn a degree.
Going forward, Goddard says he'll continue to focus on growing community partnerships and student enrollment.
Where sparks fly and metal sings, the students of Mount Vernon aren't just bystanders. We're architects of progress.
In Posey County, BWX Technologies is helping train high schoolers for welding careers. The program was revamped last year with help from BWX and $500,000 from the U.S. Navy and Blue Forge Alliance. BWX provides critical components and services to the United States government and commercial customers. Fort Wayne, Indiana's second largest city, is one of the hottest in the country when it comes to those looking to settle down after retirement. U.S. News & World Report ranking Fort Wayne as the 10th best place to retire in the United States. Certainly quality of life playing into that equation, as well as affordability, tax rates, and happiness. So what about the overall state of the housing market in Indiana? What's trending from the shores of Lake Michigan to the Ohio River and in between? As we reported at the top of the show, the central Indiana housing market is on a roll. Zillow ranking it the nation's second hottest market for 2025. Real estate experts also seeing momentum in other regions around the state.
Seen other metro areas see strong growth as well. Fort Wayne, South Bend, Jeffersonville, New Albany area has seen a lot of positive growth, and that goes with that population growth as well. We've actually seen some of our rural communities hold up strongly as people, they have a remote job or they have a job where they don't have to come into the city center every day, so they are able to look further and further out, looking for that value buy as well.
Mortgage rates are beginning to moderate, and a more buyer-friendly market is starting to emerge, but affordability and inventory are still challenges around the state. So, thinking about investing money to fix up your home, to sell, where do you start? How do you find a reliable contractor? Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond caught up with a familiar face in Hoosier Housing to get some answers.
She's the queen of DIY home renovations, who made waves as the star of HGTV's long-running hit show Good Bones. Mina Starsziak-Hawk weighs in on some of the most frequently asked questions she gets, like, how do you find a good contractor you can trust?
Word of mouth is always the best you can do, because if someone else is going to put their neck on the line, your friend or buddy is going to say, yeah, so-and-so did great work. And then if it doesn't, it's not just a problem with the contractor. It's like, look, you gave me your recommendation. So I don't give them lightly. So I assume, presume other people are careful with who they recommend and say, yes, I'm super happy with how this shook out. What I've learned now is, what you don't pay for up front, you usually end up paying for in the long run, unfortunately. And the more shenanigans you're willing to handle, the more hand-holding, the more babysitting, maybe the little bit more reasonable you can get the estimate. So I think it's really knowing your skill set, your time, your mental status, your ability, your financial situation to be able to make the decision on, where am I going to go to look? Like what tier as far as contractors can I be in? I can afford more because I have more money and less time, or I have plenty of time. I sit at home all day. I'll babysit the heck out of them. It's a tricky dance, and one that I still have not mastered.
And with interest rates upwards of 7%, I asked Mina if it's better to buy an older home and renovate or begin from scratch with new construction.
I think older homes, just look at 2x4s from 100 years ago compared to 2x4s now. A lot of people like the idea of new construction because they're like, it's fresh and it's new and no one's lived in it. But it also has 2-year-old trees that are framing the whole thing. It is worth every single penny to hire your own independent inspector at every single stage. Foundation, have them come check. Framing, have them come check. Because the city misses things. They churn people in and out so quickly. It's impossible to train them perfectly. And they have a lot on their plate. If you're going to do new construction, inspection companies, they don't do just inspections when you're buying or selling a home. So I think that's huge, whichever direction you end up going.
Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Inside Indiana Business. And we leave you this week with positive signs that we're one day closer to spring in Indiana. Images of the massive renovation taking place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, set to reopen April 2nd. Go out and make it a successful week.